right, so solving systems of linear equations, we're going to be looking at substitution methods. So we have 4 different methods to solve for the systems of linear equations. So we're going to be looking at substitution and elimination this week. And then you're going to take a test over those 2. Then we're going to do matrix and graphing, then you take a test over those 2. It feels like you're taking a lot of tests, but honestly, the more tests you take, the better, because some tests might be easier than others. And who knows, maybe I might drop some grades, some test grades, or some daily grades. Okay, so what is a system of linear equations? So a system of linear equations, or simply a linear system, consists of 2 or more linear equations. So 2 or more linear equations in the same variable. A solution of a system of linear equations in 2 variables is an ordered pair that satisfies each equation in the system, better known as their intersection point, or the point where the 2 lines cross. So when we start graphing these lines, you're going to see that the solution is going to be where they intersect. Okay. So this is the intersection. Intersection. All right, so moving on to the next part. So when it comes to systems of linear equations, you have 3 different types of solutions. You have no solution, so that means that the lines do not intersect at all. Bless you. So they do not intersect. Okay, so that means that they're parallel lines. So if they're parallel lines, they are not going to intersect at all. So that means that there's no solution. Now, if it's one solution, meaning they intersect just once, then that means, again, only intersects once. Now, infinite solutions. Infinite solution means that you have these 2 of the same lines. So that means you're just going to end up having to draw one line, technically. So what this means is that they intersect at all times. All right, so when to use the substitution method. Now, again, we're substituting. So when you are substituting something, you're getting rid of what's there and replacing it with something new. Okay, so substitution method is most useful when one equation is already solved for a variable, but the other one is not. So when one equation is already solved for a variable and the other one is not. Substitution can be used on any problem as long as you solve one of the equations for either x or y. So you have to solve one of the equations for either x or y. So you have to have x equals or y equals in order for you to do the substitution method. So let's look at this example. So first we will use the substitution method to solve this problem. So you have y is equal to x plus 2, and then 4x plus y is equal to 7. If you notice, you already have y equals, which is this first equation right here. What this means is that your y is already solved for. So using this x plus 2, you're going to replace the y on the second equation. Okay, so we're substituting x plus 2 into the second equation. The reason why we do this is because we want to have just one variable to solve for. Right now, it's kind of hard to solve in the first equation or the second equation because there's 2 variables, meaning there's an x and a y. And what we're trying to do is at least get either only x or only y to solve it out. Okay, so to use this method, one equation has to be solved for either x or y, meaning you have to have x equals or y equals. So if you have one of those, then the first step should be easy. If you don't, then you're going to have to find an equation where you can solve for either x or y, which we'll run into those later on in the notes. Okay, step 2, take the equation that is solved for one variable and substitute it into the other equation, creating a one variable equation that can be solved. Okay, so pretty much what we're doing is we're replacing the y in the second equation because the first equation is already solved for y. We have y equals. So that means that y is going to be replaced with x plus 2. That makes it easier for us to solve for one variable. So we have 4x plus, my y is going to turn into x plus 2, meaning I'm replacing the second y with x plus 2 is equal to 7. So again, all I did was just replace the y on the second equation with x plus 2. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify this and get rid of any parentheses, combine like terms, whatever I can do to simplify it a little bit more. So what can I combine in my equation right now? The 4x and the x. So we have 4x plus 1x. What is that going to equal to? 5x. So 5x plus 2 is equal to 7. Now this is just a regular two-step equation which we've solved for many times with other lessons. So this is nothing new. Now step 3, it says once you have substituted, so substitute in for one of the variables, simplify and solve the equation. Okay, so we end up with 5x plus 2 is equal to 7. I'm trying to get my x by itself, so what do I do to solve for x here? What's my first step? Close. Minus 2. So we have 5x is equal to 5. Then what's my last step? Divide by 5. So x is equal to 1. Now this is why we do substitution method, because it's easier to solve when there's only one variable. If the y was still there, it would be harder to solve for. So that's why we substitute it in and then solve for x. So we have our x value, however, we need a y value. So that means I have to solve for y somehow. If I go back to my two original equations, notice how you just have y equals x plus 2. So that should tell you that this is the easiest way to solve for y, because you already know what x is equal to. X is equal to 1. So you're going to replace the x there and solve for y. So let's go here on the side. So we have plug in x equals 1 into y is equal to x plus 2. So wherever I have an x, I'm going to plug in 1. So I'm going to have 1, or y is equal to 1 plus 2. And what's 1 plus 2 equal to? 1 plus 2? 3. So y is equal to 3. So again, we started off by deciding which of my equations is solved for x or y. Now that I saw that y is solved for, I've replaced the y in the second equation with x plus 2. Simplified it, solved for x, because that's the only variable that I had to solve for. Once I have x solved out, I use y equals x plus 2 to solve for y and just plug in 1 for x. And then now I have my final answer. So my answer has to be on an order paired, so I have to write it like this. So my answer is 1, 3. And that is your answer. Now, there is a way for you to check your answer, which I'm going to write it here on the side so you can have kind of an idea of what to do. So in order for you to check your answer, you have to plug in your x and y values into your original equation, and it has to work. So let's look at equation number 1. We have y is equal to x plus 2. So we know that my y is equal to 3. We know my x is equal to 1. Bring down the plus 2. So right now, all I'm doing is plugging in my x and y values to double check my answer, which I know a lot of y'all don't really do. You need to double check your answers. Doesn't take long. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and solve out the right part. So 1 plus 2, that should give me 3. So on the right side, I have 3. Bring down your left side. Is 3 equal to 3? Yes, so that works out for the first equation. For the second equation, we have 4x plus y is equal to 7. So I'm plugging in 1 for x and 3 for y. And I want to make sure that this left side is equal to 7. So I'm going to plug that in the calculator. So 4 times 1 plus 3 gives me 7, which is what we want. So that means it worked for both equations. So this is our final answer. So again, this is just to check what you have solved for. Any questions? First example is always going to be the hardest one, obviously, because this is something not brand new, but it's something that you've seen before, but it's been a while, obviously. All right, is anybody still writing? No. All right, so let's look at some other examples. All right, example number 1. We have y is equal to 4x and then x plus 2y is equal to 18. Which of these two equations do I have a y equals or x equals? Is it the first one or the second one? The first one. If you notice, the first one you have y equals 4x, which is what we want. So every time you start a problem like these, you want to make sure that one of your variables is solved for already. So that means you either want to have y equals or x equals, which in this case we do. We have y equals 4x. So that means I'm going to replace the y from the second equation with 4x. Again, you're replacing the y, so the y should not stay there at all. It should be replaced. That means it goes away. All right, so we have x plus, bring down the 2, parentheses 4x. Now, if you notice, anytime I plug in a term or an equation, I put it in parentheses. Okay, so now we're going to simplify this equation. We only have x to worry about now. So again, you kind of see the pattern. We replace the y with the 4x, so that leaves us with just x to worry about. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my parentheses by multiplying 2 times 4x, bringing down that x on the left. What's 2 times 4x? 8x is equal to 18. What do I do next? Ready? Mm-mm. Oh, you add them together. You add them together. So 8x plus 1x will give me 9x is equal to 18. Then what's next? Divide by 9. So x is equal to 2. So I have my x solved for, but I need my y. So if you notice, you already have y equals, so all you have to do is just plug in the 2 for x to solve for your y. So we have y is equal to 4x. So 4 times positive 2. So what's 4 times 2 equal to? 8. So that means that my y value is going to be equal to 8 because my x value was equal to 2. I plugged it into y equals and I got 8. So my final answer is going to be 2, 8, which is what I want all your answers to be written as an ordered pair. Anybody have any questions? So these are easy because they are already solved for y or for x for you. But the example number 2 is a little bit different. So let's kind of see what we have to do. Okay, so we have negative 6x minus 2y is equal to 2. Then we have 4x plus y is equal to 1. Are any of these equations solved for x or for y? Which one? It's okay. No, it's okay. So on this one, when I'm asking you if it's solved for x or for y, I'm looking for x equals or y equals. Is there any x equals or y equals there? No. You notice the equations just look like regular equations, which really can't do much. So what you have to do next is decide which variable you want to solve for. Pick the variable that's by its, well, not by itself, but the variable that does not have a number in the front. So we're picking this one right here to solve for. And you see why we're solving it out for. Okay, so we have y right here. We want to get it by itself, so I need to get rid of this 4x. So what do I do to get rid of it? Minus. So minus 4x on both sides. So I end up having y is equal to negative 4x plus 1. So y is equal to negative 4x plus 1. So now instead of using the second equation, I rearranged it around so I can have a y equals. That's why I told you to pick the one with the variable without any numbers in the front. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and plug this y into the first equation. Okay, so now we're using y is equal to negative 4x plus 1. I'm going to replace it with the first equation because that's the one that I didn't mess with. So I'm going to end up having negative 6x minus 2 times negative 4x plus 1. Now, if you notice, anytime I replace the variable, so for example, when I'm replacing the y with negative 4x plus 1, I get rid of that y. I'm replacing it for a reason. Okay, you don't want to keep the y if you're going to replace it. Is equal to 2. All right, so now I have to get rid of the parentheses. So anytime you have parentheses, get rid of it first. So we're going to distribute that negative 2 with negative 4x and with 1. Bring down your negative 6x. What is negative 2 times negative 4? Or negative 2 times negative 4x? Close. Positive 8. So plus 8x. What is negative 2 times 1? Negative 2 is equal to 2. All right. Then what's my next step to get x by itself or to simplify it for x? What do I combine? The x's. So I'm combining negative 6x plus 8x. So what does that equal to? 2x. Minus 2 is equal to 2. All right, then what's my next step to get x by itself? I'm going to start calling on some of y'all. What do I get rid of first? 2. Which one? Okay, how do you get rid of the minus 2? Plus 2 on both sides. So that means I end up having 2x is equal to 4. Then what's next? Divide by 2. X is equal to 2. Right. I have to start giving some extra credit to those that are answering my questions. That'd be nice. All right, so we have x solved for. Now we're going to have to solve for y. If you notice, you already have y equals right here. So all you have to do is just plug in this 2 in place of x and solve for y. So we have y is equal to 4 times x. So 4 times 2 Oops, hold on. It's supposed to be -4. So -4 times my x, which is equal to 2, plus 1. All right, so we have -4 times 2 plus 1. So my y is equal to -7. So what's going to be my final answer?
Aaron said 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Negative.
What's our -7? But we need our final answers to be as a pair. So how do I write it as an ordered pair?
Oh, you need it as 2,
Uh-huh.
comma, -7.
Uh-huh. Make sure you put it in parentheses. So it has to look like this, or else you're gonna get your problem. You're gonna get points taken off. All right. Any questions on number 2? Now, like I said, once you get your answer software, plug it back into your original equation to make sure that you have the correct answer. So let's go ahead and do that for number 2. So if you notice, your x is equal to 2, and then your y is equal to -7. So I'm going to plug in these numbers into the first equation. So we have -6 times 2 minus 2 times -7. Because I'm plugging in these values into my first equation, which gives me 2, which is what I want. Then we have 4 times +2 plus -7, which gives me 1, which is what I want. So that means that this answer works out, and that's it. Any questions? Hope you are paying attention. All right, example number 3. So for example number 3, we have x minus 2y is equal to 0, and then 5x plus 2y is equal to 24. So do I have any y equals or x equals on any of my equations? No. Okay, so we have to figure out what can we solve for to get an x equals or y equals. So what's the easiest equation that we can kind of rearrange to get a variable by itself? Would it be the first equation or the second equation? The first one. So which variable would we solve for? The x or the y? You sure? The x. You want to pick the one that has the variable by itself. That means that you want the one with the variable that has no number in the front. If you were to choose y, you're going to have to do a little bit more steps to solve it out. And you don't want to do that. So just pick the one where the variable is by itself, meaning there's no number in the front. All right, so I have to get rid of the -2y or the -2y. So what do I do to move it to the other side? Plus 2y. Okay, so we have x is equal to 0 plus 2y, which is the same thing as just saying x is equal to 2y. All right, so we have x is equal to 2y. I'm going to replace the x from the second equation with 2y. All right, so we have 5 parentheses. We're replacing it with 2y. Plus 2y is equal to 24. So again, I solved for x on the first equation because that's the one that had the easiest variable to solve for, which was x, because you want the variable that does not have a number in the front. Okay, once you solve that out, plug that back into the variable on the second equation or on the other equation. So you're going to plug in 2y in place of x, and you're going to solve it out. So we're going to multiply 5 times 2y. What does that equal to? 5 times 2y.
Is it 2y? Yeah. Can we add those two?
Now, we have to get rid of the parentheses first. So you want to multiply the 5 and the 2y.
So minus 5.
Hmm?
So minus 5.
You're multiplying these two. So what's 5 times 2y?
10.
10y. All right. Then what's next? What are you confused on?
Well, we ain't gonna get to it.
You add the 10 and 2.
I got your back on everything.
10 and 2.
So you combine your like terms. So 10y plus 2y will give you 12y is equal to 24. I mean, I'm trying to explain it as simple as possible.
Hey, listen, I ain't gonna lie, it's not open.
Well, better study harder on this. Get some extra practice. All right, so now we're trying to get the y by itself. So that means we got to get rid of the 12. So what do? Divide by 12. Okay, so y is equal to 24 divided by 12, which is equal to what? 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of start from the very beginning. So those that are confused, I would recommend you to pay attention because I'm going to go a little bit slower and explain it a little bit more step by step.
I get it now.
No, too late. All right, so example number 3. We have x minus 2y is equal to 0. 5x plus 2y is equal to 24. Okay, if you look at both of the equations. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. All right, so we want to solve for x. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the y, which is equal to 2. I'm going to plug it into this equation. I'm not wasting my time going over it again if you're not paying attention. Okay, so we have x is equal to 2 times my y. My y is equal to 2, so that means I'm replacing the y with 2. Okay, so x is equal to 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. So I now have my x value and my y value. Again, you're trying to solve for each of the variables. Now, the substitution method, you're using it to solve for at least the x or the y. It doesn't really matter which one, as long as you're able to get one variable to solve for. Now, your final answer is going to be 4, 2. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check my answers, which I 100% recommend you to do when you have two numbers, one for x and one for y. So you have x minus 2y is equal to 0 on the first one. So you're replacing 4 with the x minus 2 times y, so 2 times 2, which gives you 0, which is what you want for the first equation. For the second equation, you have 5 times x, so 5 times 4, plus 2 times y, which is 2 times 2, which should give me 24. So again, all I'm doing is double checking my answers back into my original equation. All right, any questions on example number 3? All right, example number 4. So you have y is equal to 4x and y is equal to 4x minus 1. If you notice, both of these are solved for y. So you can just pick whichever one. It doesn't really matter. We're going to just go with the first one. So we have y is equal to 4x. Since it's solved for y, this 4x, I'm going to replace the y on the second equation. Since I'm replacing the y in the second equation, I'm replacing it with 4x. Then I'm bringing down the right side. So I have 4x is equal to 4x minus 1.
Are we gonna minus 4x?
So you have an x on each side. So that means you want to move the x to one side. So we can go ahead and move either this one on the right or this one on the left. I'm going to move the one on the right. So I'm subtracting 4x on both sides.
X is equal to 0.
So when I subtract 4x and 4x on the other side, it becomes 0. Bring down the equal sign. You still have this minus 1 that you want to bring down. So it's going to be 0 is equal to negative 1. Is 0 equal to negative 1? No. So that means that this is not a true statement. So what does that mean? If it's not true? No solution. Okay, so again, this happens when your variables eliminate completely and you're left with a false statement. So in this case, 0 cannot be equal to negative 1. So it's false, so there's no solution.
Can you please go over this one, please?
Hmm?
Can you please go over this one?
Okay, so on this one, you have y is equal to 4x and then y is equal to 4x minus 1. This one, both of them are solved for y, so it doesn't really matter which one you pick to plug in. So I'm going to just pick the first one. So I have y is equal to 4x, so that means the 4x is going to replace the y on the second equation. Okay, so once you replace it, you get 4x is equal to 4x minus 1. Then you're going to get rid of the 4x on either side. Doesn't really matter which one. I went ahead and got rid of it from the right side. So I subtracted 4x from the right side and subtracted the 4x on the left side. So what happens on the right side, it goes away, and it also goes away on the left side. So you're left with 0 on the left side is equal to negative 1, because don't forget this little negative 1 that you have to keep bringing down. And since 0 cannot be equal to negative 1, it's not a true statement, so it's no solution. Okay. And tomorrow, before you start your worksheet, I will go over 1 or 2 extra problems just to make sure everybody's on the same page. All right, number 5. Y minus 3x is equal to 0, and 2y minus 6x is equal to 0. Are any of these solved for x or solved for y?
The first one?
Is it y equals? No. So anytime I ask you if it's solved for x or solved for y, I'm asking you, is there any equation that starts with y equals or x equals? Which in this case, there's not any. So we have to do some moving around. Now, which equation is easiest to solve for a variable, the first one or the second one? The first one. If you notice, you have a y here that has no number in the front. Pick that one. Always pick that one when you're trying to solve for a variable or trying to get one of the equations to solve for a variable. So you have y minus 3x is equal to 0. So what do I do to just get y by itself? Plus 3. And this is why we pick the one with the variable that does not have anything in front of it. It's because we just have to do one simple step, which is just move the x. Okay, so we have y is equal to 0 plus 3x, which is just going to be 3x. So now it gives us a y equals, which is what we want. That's what we always want to start off with. Make sure we have a y equals or x equals. So now that we have y equals, we're going to go ahead and substitute that 3x in place of y for the second equation. So one of your equations has to be solved for y or for x. Once that equation is solved for x or for y, then the opposite equation is going to get the replacement. So I'm going to plug in 2, or going to bring down 2 and then multiply the y, which is 3x. So plug in 3x in place of y. Minus 6x is equal to 0. So everything else I'm rewriting, the only thing I'm replacing is y. So y equals to 3x, that y is going to be replaced with 3x. So I'm trying to get rid of the parentheses, so that means I'm multiplying what's on the outside to what's on the inside. So what's 2 times 3x? 6. So 6x. Minus 6x is equal to 0. Then what's my next step?
No, subtract the
You combine them. So you're going to do 6x minus 6x. So what does that equal to? 0. So they eliminate completely. So you're left with 0 on the left side and 0 on the right side. Is 0 equal to 0? Yes. So what does that mean? What's going to be my answer?
all solutions.
Infinite solutions. Now, if you notice, when it comes to no solution and infinite solutions, your variables completely eliminate. Like, they go away. There's no variables at all. That means they either subtract it from each other, or you get 0, or eliminates. So that gives you kind of like a sign saying that you're going to have no solution or infinite solutions. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Now, I'm going to leave some extra problems for tomorrow.